All right. So welcome everyone to our December Customer Success webinar. My name is Barrett Johnson. I'm the content lead here at Swiftype. So if you've been on previous webinars or if you've watched the videos in the dashboard, you might have heard my voice before. We're doing these customer success webinars. We've been doing them for about 2 or 3 months now, just trying to help you guys get the most out of Swiftype and make sure that you guys have all you need to get search working on your website and really realize your dreams with search. So I'm just going to go ahead and hand it off pretty quickly here to Jeff. Jeff Blasius is our implementation engineer. He has spent a lot of time working directly with clients, helping them get set up with their front-end search interface. Jeff's built this web components library basically from the ground up to really make it a lot easier for people to take, an indexed engine and serve search results the way they'd like to see them on their website. So really without any further ado, okay, actually, with some further ado, there's items that I just want to address up front. So as you might have seen in the email, there will be the slides and recording available after this call. So I'll send an email out to everyone who's registered directly after the call. There's no poll questions today, but if you have any questions you'd like answered, we've left space during the webinar to answer any, so you can send those directly to me during the Q&A. At the same time, if you're having any technical issues or you're not able to hear anything, you can chat me directly, and I can chat right back at you. And then at the end, we'll send a quick survey that we'd love to get your feedback on, so if you could just kind of hold on at the end of the call, and we'd love to hear your feedback, make sure that we're covering things that you're interested in, and if you have any ideas for other topics in the future, we'd love to hear that as well. So I'll let Jeff introduce himself and walk you guys through this webinar today.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Jeff, and I am an implementation engineer here at Swiftype. I focus on building search applications on very large websites that require a lot of interesting customizations to how search results get displayed on a website. And in order to support that effort, we, as a team, have built a Swiftype Web Components JavaScript library, which helps to make it very repeatable process for building powerful search applications. So what I'd like to talk about today is first what the component library is all about, how it fits into the Swiftype tools ecosystem. So Swiftype offers a number of different JavaScript libraries and ways for displaying search results, and how I'd like to talk about how the component library fits in with that. And then we're going to do a demo on working with the component library. I'll be able to show you how easy it is to work with and understand. Finally, we'll do some question and answer. And last, there'll be an opportunity to talk about some more technical points around the library, any sort of technical questions. If people want me to go into like a deeper dive into the technology, I'd be happy to do so, and we'll leave that for the end. Okay, so what is the component library? The Swiftype component library is a way of displaying search results on your website that allows you to make it a very powerful and easy to customize experience. We've done a lot of custom implementations, as I mentioned here, and the component library really comes out of the learnings from those implementations. It is not a library that offers a fixed set of configuration options. Instead, it gives you a framework for building search applications in a way that's easy to understand and easy to expand on. So it's targeted at very complicated and customized search pages, search results pages. So, how does it fit into the Swiftype JavaScript ecosystem? As I mentioned in the agenda, Swiftype offers a lot of different options for displaying search results. The first option might be our result designer. The Swiftype result designer makes it easy for you to take your search results, point and click, and get a very simple, quick install bit of JavaScript that you can just simply install into your website, and it starts displaying search results. The limitations of the result designer is that it has a limited or fixed set of customization options. It's really designed for somebody to get started quickly and get search results on their page, but it's hard for people to expand on and customize it, or there's no option to customize it. So if you want a truly integrated experience, you're probably going to want to look towards our other options. The jQuery libraries is another option for our customers. The jQuery libraries are very small and easy to use libraries that allow you to install an autocomplete functionality and search functionality into your website. In the beginning, in doing implementations, we started with the jQuery libraries, and we quickly learned that the number of customizations clients often wanted meant that we were doing a lot of custom code writing. And the web components really comes out of our learnings from the jQuery libraries, that once an integration became sufficiently complicated, we wanted a way to make it easy to understand and less custom. So what we did with the web components is we wanted a JavaScript framework that was very custom, very powerful, but also was easy to understand. And our learnings from the jQuery libraries really comes into the web components.
One note here is that the result designer, you guys may have seen on the website or other parts of blog posts and such, that we did a webinar exclusively about the result designer a couple months ago. So that's available on the website, and if you'd like access to that recording, you can reach out to me after the call. But that's a good option for someone who's not as experienced or who doesn't have technical resources at their disposal to work with JavaScript like we're going to talk about today.
That's right. Okay, so I'm really going to jump right into working with web components. I think it'll give you a good understanding of how it works and how to get started with it. So I'm going to leave the presentation and go over to the components website. If you go to components.swiftype.com, you'll see this website here. It talks all about the library, about what it is and how it works. If you click this Get Started button here, it jumps you right into a tutorial for how to quickly and easily get started with the JavaScript library. It includes an in-browser editor that you can use to edit and preview your code. So you don't even need a web server, you don't need an editor set up. You can work with Swiftype components right from the browser. And we'll be doing that today in the demo. The catalog is another section of the components.swiftype.com website. The catalog includes a listing of all of the components. Components are part of the search application. So, for example, one very simple and easy to use component is the first page component. And when you use this component, it will automatically include a link to the first page of the search results. So you can take this component, install it on your site, and you'll get a link to the first page of results for the current set. And the catalog includes a number of different components that you can compose and configure to build a very powerful search application. And this list right here, we continue to grow it and expand over time. The components library is also open source, so we welcome other developers to develop and to program a component. The act of building out a component is fairly easy, and I'll be happy to talk more about that at the end of this talk if anybody's interested. Okay, so the next section here is documentation. Documentation just is a full, very extensive documentation on the components library itself. Talks about how to use it, how it works. A lot of the basic functionality of components is documented here. If you have any questions, our support team is amazing, and they'll be happy to help you out with any questions on this library. It's completely supported by Swiftype. And finally, there's the example section here. The example section is growing all the time. We have a couple of easy-to-use examples that include search engines that are already provisioned for you. So you can take these examples and start to work with them, change them, and use our example search engines to play with components. And we're going to do that today. So I'm going to flip back over to our keynote presentation. And the first demo I wanted to do today is to customize the text in the search results. It's very common for a search results application to have something like showing results 1 to 20 of X. And that's just the status information to show the current page and the number of search results we're seeing. Flipping back over to the components website, I'm going to go to the e-commerce demo link here. And you guys at home can follow along with me. Here is the e-commerce demo we have. It's a real working search application and search engine. So if I search for something very simple like blue, the autocomplete populates, I hit submit, and the search results change. This is a working search application in the browser. Now the really neat thing about this is that you can click on the title over here, and it's going to launch an in-browser editor, which allows you to work with this page in real time. So I'm going to click the run here, and my coding is done on the left here. This is my text editor, and on the right here is my search application, and I can again interact with it, and it works. So what we want to do here in the Swiftype Components application is we want to change this text. And if I look over at the editor on the left here, you'll see that this text is in HTML right here, and it's saying showing results, and then it has this data st page start type tag. And what happens is this data-st means that it's a Swiftype component, and when this is a live search application, this HTML tag will automatically show just number 1 here, which is the start of the current page. And then there's a dash here, and then there's a page end, so that shows 15. So each of these components, when you're editing the HTML, can be recomposed to change the living search application very easily. So over here on the HTML, let's say I wanted to change the text and say showing results, or showing X many of results, and I wanted to just remove the start and end of the page number. So that's a very common request. And if I were to remove this HTML, I'm going to strip it out. Our search application on the right updates, and now it says showing results, or showing X. Let's change the text here so it reads a little bit better, and it says showing 1009 results. And if you change the search, so we're going to search for blue, we're going to see here now that the number updates, and it's updating with the word blue in it. And the facets on the left change, the search results change, now we're showing blue results. So all of this is updating in real time, and as we change the HTML on the left, the search application is changing on the right. Okay. So we move back over to the next demo. Next, I want to talk about how we can use some options to change the facets. So we're flipping back to our search application. In our search application, we have a category facet, and this category facet shows the categories of the search results broken down with the number of the results in it. And this bit of HTML is all rendered using this tag called the ST checkbox facet tag right here. And this component, it has a configuration option on it called category facet, so that when I switch over to another file, this is the configuration.js, it has the configuration for the category facet in the configuration.js file. So I'm going to flip over to configuration.js, scroll down, and we have the category facet. This configuration drives how this facet and component works. So you can already see how components allow you to really break down a search application into a bunch of smaller parts, which makes it very easy to understand. I can go into the configuration and say I wanted to change the title, and I just added an extra Y there. It's very simple, and the title automatically changes. If I go back to the components website, and I go to the catalog, and I go to faceting, and then checkbox facet, we'll see that the documentation describes a lot of configuration options. So there's a lot of options for how to configure facets. They're a very powerful component in our library. It's something that our users like to customize quite a bit. And as you can imagine, there are lots of different ways to have facets render and the logic that is required on this page. Specifically, I want to change an option to limit the number of results in the facet. So this is an option that's in this example called limit. And here we're going to limit the number of results to just 4. So I'm going to jump back over to my editor. And in the category facet configuration, I'm going to paste that text. And as soon as I paste that text, the number of results that show up in the category is limited to 4. So it's very common to see search results that have a field, maybe something like tags. And tags are very useful, and they're used quite a bit, but they often will be a huge list on the search results page, and people want to limit it to just the top, maybe the 10 most popular tags or the 4 most popular tags. And here, because we're sorting by count and then by name, we see the 4 most common categories in the facet. Okay. So the third demo I want to talk about here is how to add components to our search application. In this example, we want to add a facet, this time on the color field. So our search application, I know our search application has a field called color, and I can create another facet on the left here and make it a color facet. So I'm going to copy this tag, and I'm going to create a color facet. So as you can see right now we have 2 category facets. I'm going to change this one to color. And it doesn't work right now because there is no configuration for the color facet. So again, I'm going to jump over to the configuration, and I'm going to copy the configuration section for category, and I'm going to create one for color. And now we can start changing it. So I'm going to call this color, and I'm going to change the field to color. And all of a sudden, we have a fully functional facet that breaks the search results down by color. And it can select blue, and we can just see blue results. I can select white, and we just see white results. So if you're following along at home, you can continue to work with the search application, change how it works. There are 2 example search engines. So if I go back over to the website, 2 examples, there's an e-commerce demo and a publishing demo. The fields on these demos are slightly different for the different types of content that we have, but you might want to take this content and work with the components library in the browser and see what you can create. Okay, going back over to presentation here. Do we have any questions?
So I wanted to ask you a question, Jeff. Maybe, if you can describe, how much technical experience, there might be some people on this call who aren't technical themselves, but who might have joined on just to kind of see what's possible with components. So, how much experience do you think someone needs working with kind of front-end code? Or maybe you can describe the type of developer who would kind of readily understand and be able to work with this flexible library.
Yeah, that's a great question. So our ideal, so-called ideal developer for the components library is somebody who can work with HTML and understands a little bit about JavaScript, that they can work with web pages and build out search results pages. They do not need to be extremely technical, although if you are technical, you can take the library, understand it very quickly, and expand on it. somebody should be able to edit HTML and JavaScript and get this working fairly quickly.
Great. I did want to add a note here. Perhaps we could have mentioned it a bit earlier, but like Jeff has mentioned throughout, there's a couple example engines. So if you are, so those, everything that Jeff demoed today is kind of based on the assumption here that you've already indexed your website content in the way that you'd like it to be indexed. So that means, so for example, in our example, Jeff had already indexed the category of the different types of products, and then he had indexed the color of the different products as well. So he was able to call on those directly from the search engine when he was configuring the JavaScript. Now, there is also a webinar that we've done in the past exclusively about indexing and what's required to index directly, how you want to do it. So it walks you through, it starts out with what indexing even is and why it's important. And then it kind of moves back into how to index. It introduces everything from using an API to a general plugin to our actual web crawler. So if you have questions about that specific webinar, you can feel free to chat me or email or respond directly to the email we'll send up after this. But we do have a question here. What's required, or how would someone go about building their own component, and how do they contribute it to the library, or at least submit it for approval?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to flip back over to the components website. That's a great question. And I'm going to go to the catalog and jump back over to this first page component. This is an easy example. If you look at the components pages, at the bottom of the page is a section which displays the full source of the component. This language is in React, JavaScript, JSX it's called, and React is a JavaScript framework that is put out, contributed to the open source community by Facebook. And React has a syntax called JSX to handle components similar to these. This is an example of the source for a web component. I think it's fairly easy to understand. If you do want to build out a component and contribute to it, there's a contact email address on the documentation page that you can go over. So the email address is available here. We'll send it out after this call, but there's also a GitHub link here for those who want to contribute. And we'll be happy to add it to the website, add it to the library. There are also base components. So if you see at the top here, there are components that are included with the library by default, and there are also components that can be added to that are sort of add-ons for specific and more specialized use cases. So for example, we have a component that requires another JavaScript library called handlebars. We have components for rendering search results on a map, which requires an external JavaScript library. And those can be, those are not part of the base, but they're part of they can be added on because they require other JavaScript libraries.
Cool. All right, so we've got another question here. When building facets, this is from Travis Clark. When building facets, is there the ability to make them conditional? As in, if a search doesn't have color, but does have category, only category would display?
Absolutely. So there is a way to do that. There are a couple of ways to do that, actually. In most cases, the components will automatically not render if at all, if there are no results, there are no facet results on that component. There's also a bit of JavaScript that you can add in the page to hide that HTML element if there are no results for that document field.
Great.
And if you have any questions on like how to do that, again, feel free to email us and we will expand on that answer.
Cool. So we've got another question here, just about kind of how you would use components to build an autocomplete experience.
Yeah. So autocomplete is actually a really interesting topic in search results. It's something that people have a lot of different requirements around, and most people want autocomplete to behave slightly different. So there are actually a lot of options in our autocomplete component. If you go to the search form component renders an autocomplete within it. And there's a configuration section just for autocomplete in the search form component. The most powerful part of our autocomplete part of our components library is it allows you to define multiple sections in the autocomplete. Customers often have the need to break down search results into multiple sections in an autocomplete. For example, if you're an e-commerce site, you might have a section for blog articles, and then another section for products, and then another section for support requests, all in this one autocomplete form, but broken down into 3 sections. And our component allows you to do that very easily. It also allows you to choose how the search behaves for each of those sections. So it's very common for maybe you want 10 products to show up, and those search results will be paginated in a page size of 10, but you want only 3 support requests and only 3 blog posts. And our configuration options allow you to do that in a way that is pretty easy to understand. So we do autocomplete. There's also an example in the examples just for autocomplete that shows how to do multi-section autocomplete. It's a really interesting problem that I think we've tackled in a really good way.
Cool, thanks. So we got a few questions here. This is great. So this is a question from Eric Robbins, and I think this might come into an indexing type question, but he said that our main website is a WordPress blog where we have successfully installed Swiftype, but our store section uses Magento. It's contained within a subfolder of our site's file structure. So when searching from WordPress, Swiftype doesn't display results from the Magento store. So is it possible to make it see our store from WordPress? And my guess is the answer would be to use our web crawler to index the 2 of them at the same time.
Yes, exactly. In most of our implementations are done using the Swiftype crawler, which is really a more powerful way to index your content. Both the WordPress and Magento plugins that Swiftype offers allow you to index content quickly, but with many custom configurations, the crawler will be the best option. And what I would do in that case is set up a crawler with one engine that indexes content from both sources at the same time under the same domain.
Great. Yeah, and so if Eric, if you have more questions about what it takes to specify information from your 2 websites, you'd be using essentially meta tags to speak directly to the web crawler. We have information on that in the other webinar, but you're also invited to work directly with our support team while you're getting set up. We'd be happy to help you out with that.
Yeah, and with the crawler, what you can do is you can tag Magento pages with a particular label, and then you can tag WordPress pages with a different label on the same field, and that way your search will be able to distinguish between Magento results and WordPress results.
Cool. All right. Now, here's another question from Travis again. Do you have examples in demo of how customers are handling complex search on small devices, so mobile? Do you have any specific ideas or recommendations for people who are looking to apply this type of configuration on mobile?
Yeah, absolutely. So by far, most of our clients are using responsive HTML for mobile. Responsive HTML is a way to render the same HTML but have it display differently on different device sizes. And you can set breakpoints in responsive HTML so that it will display differently at a certain width of device. Components does not interfere with that in any way. It allows you to write responsive markup and style very easily. There's no special needs for Swiftype components. I will say that the Swiftype Components library is both small and fast. It's really built from the ground up to be very, very fast. And so mobile devices will be served very, very well by having a small download size and rendering easily on slower rendering engines. Great.
My last question, I think we'll end on this one. You've built these components. You spent a lot of time in the library. What are some of your favorite components? Some of the coolest little interface tweaks? I know I saw the tabs feature you demoed to the company not too long ago. I mean, are there any other components that you really like that you think are pretty unique or cool?
Yeah, that's another great question. Let's see if let me flip back into the library. I actually, I know it's already been mentioned, but I feel like the autocomplete is probably at the top of my list. I have a few favorites, of course, but the autocomplete, for me, it felt like we had a lot of customers that had a lot of different needs in autocomplete functionality. And it was, initially it seemed very difficult to find a solution that could satisfy everyone's requirements. And right now, so far, the autocomplete seems to be that solution. It's been really helpful for us in satisfying client needs. But I would also say that one of the really appealing parts of the components library is that, say, for example, in 6 months, we have a client and we realize that their autocomplete needs are totally different, that they don't fit into what our component does right now. And in that case, what we'll do is we'll write a different component. We'll get rid of the basic autocomplete component for this customer only, and we'll implement a new one for them. And we don't have to throw away all the work we've done. We can just throw away that one component and make something new for that customer.
Great.
Which is a really, really exciting idea.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Jeff, for taking the time this morning to walk us through that. I think that was really great. Everyone who's on the call, there's some. So we'll send out the recording of today's session in case you want to send it to a colleague or rewatch it for your own enjoyment, or technical if you have any questions or whatever. And we've put some resources on the last slide, so if it's just kind of additional things to check out if you have any questions. Feel free to email support@swiftype.com once you're getting set up, and if you have any questions, we'll be glad to help you out. Our support team is really great, and they're some of my favorite people. check out the components website, components.swiftype.com. Check it out. Again, feel free to reach out with questions. And thanks for joining. We'll send out a survey right after this, but just wanted to thank everyone, and hope you have a good weekend. Bye.